Welcome back, csc200 class. This is part 2 of our Presidents FK foreign key, and we just dropped our table and we're going to recreate it again because I had something in there that I didn't like, and we're going to start adding our vice presidents. So that's what we're going to do in part 2. So we dropped our table there, and now I'm going to fix this. So I'm just going to run this code again. We could just run this again. And now it has the proper last name there. Maybe I'll make this varchar in all caps so it looks nice. And we know this works already. This will just do the name the way we want it. So I'm just going to run it again. So the first one was just practice, apparently. And there, that copied better because I had some problems copying and pasting it last time. And there it is. It looks okay. And you could show tables just to make sure that it's there. And now I have my tables back. So now I'm going to go insert my data again, which I have to do, but so I'm ready to do it now that I had a little more practice. Now we saw that this worked to put in Mike Pence, except we're not putting in Mike Pence. So I'm going to get rid of Mike Pence. And you might say, well, where am I going to get all of these? And I have to fix this too. Last underscore name. So everything's okay. Everything's ready to go here. We just have to put in values on this next line. Now where these values are, and you could save this. And I'm even going to open another tab just temporarily. I'm going to go here to Files, and I'll say Open a new tab, and then I'll just close this up, but just so I don't close anything. And I'm going to go into Databases, and you're going to have this in here, so I'm just going to click on that, and I'm going to copy all this stuff. And you could do Control A or whatever. I'm going to copy all this stuff. It goes down to Biden at the end, and I'm going to copy it, and hopefully I did everything okay. I guess we'll find out, because I haven't tried it yet with all the vice presidents. And after I do that, you could even close this tab because I copied it. And then right here, I'm just going to hit tab and I'll paste all of those. And you could tell by color if everything looks okay. And it doesn't matter if these are all tabbed or not necessarily, so I can move them back. And what I have here for all of these is first name, last name, and the ID. And I already matched these up to the president, and some of these will have similar numbers, and some of them, even if they did not have a vice president, I put themselves in there. Millard Fillmore, he was vice president for somebody else, and then when he was president, he didn't have a vice president. So I just put him as himself. He was the 13th president, so I just put in 13 for him. So we'll see how that works for now. All you have to remember is at the end, there should be a semicolon, and there should be commas after every one of these. And if you're not sure, let's go back here, look into the insert into, which is right here. Let's just make sure we have it right. We have insert into the table name and then the values in parentheses, and that's all we should need. And because we have multiple parentheses, we're going to put commas between all of them. So we have commas between each. This is just inserting one. We're inserting multiple. So that'll make life a lot easier because we're doing all of these at one time. And we should have all our data correct, and it just has to end with a semicolon and have commas between every single one here. So insert into vice presidents, that should be my table name, first name, last name, pres ID. I'm going to highlight all of this right up to Biden, and I'm going to paste it here, and I'm going to hit enter, and it said 53. So it looks like it worked, and 53 should be fine because there are duplicates in here because we have some that served multiple times, served multiple presidents, some that served themselves. So there's more than 44 in here. So that should be okay. So let's check it out and see what it looks like. So we're going to say select all, and you could maybe even put a select all statement here that you can copy and paste. I'll just copy and paste this thing. And you can maybe do it before all of this stuff because that way you don't have to be scrolling, down below there. So I'm going to put it here, and I'm just going to do my select all from vice presidents because I don't want to be messing up typing vice presidents. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to go here, and I'll paste that in there. And there it is. And what I have here, it should work out okay. I have my VP ID, and it auto-incremented, so it created that on its own. So it made those numbers starting at 1, and these are the vice presidents. So there's the first name, last name, and this is the president. So John Adams was the first vice president, and his ID, the foreign key that links up to the other table that would be George Washington. Now, there's a way we're going to be able to even display all of these, but let's just make sure this works first. So this worked. We created our first table, which is a related table, and the reason it's related is because it's linked up to a president ID. Now, we don't have to repeat data. That's why we're using something like a foreign key, because we don't want to repeat George Washington in here. Because what if what if you entered it differently and it's spelled differently, or in some cases you had a middle initial, in some cases you didn't, or if you changed something here. So you don't want to duplicate data in our database. So we're not going to duplicate president names. We're just going to say, hey, it's right here, and if you need to see who it is, we're going to go back to our presidents table. And if you need to see it in a query or need to see it printed out, we're going to use something called a join to do that. So this is working right now, so we're in good shape that we got this in here. And one thing I just want to point out, if I do an insert into here, and I'm going to copy just one of these, and I'll put it here. If we wanted to insert one more, let's say we said, hey, we need Mike Pence in here, and we know that it's going to be 45. Now, obviously, I don't have Trump in there yet, but let's say we just decided to do this. And this is what a foreign key does. It protects us. So if we say we're going to insert Mike Pence in there, and he's related to president, which is number 45, and I'll put my semicolon there instead of a comma, and I'm going to copy this. And if I go try to add Pence to this table, I'm going to get a message because of the foreign key that it's not there. It doesn't exist. So because we're doing that, it's forcing it. That's called a constraint. It's constraining it that it has to have a primary key from the other table. So it's not doing that. So 45 doesn't exist in there. So it's trying to not let you put something in there that doesn't exist. So we're going to have to fix that. And we could keep this here because we are going to do that. But let's do one for Trump. So we can go here. Now you might say, well, oh, wait a minute. What am I going to put in here? There's a whole bunch of things for the president to put in. Well, let's do this. Let's go back over here. Let's go to Files and say Open Link in New Tab. And we'll open up our files again in another tab. And I'll go back to my databases. And I'll open up my Presidents SQL. That was the original one that we created. And what you're going to see here is there's already the code to do this. So I'm going to just copy this whole thing, the first one, with George Washington. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to go back here. Just going to close this up, and I'm going to go back here and put this after Pence, and I'll paste that, and I can move some of this stuff. Now, these have these little back ticks in here, which is okay. You could leave them in here. Those little back ticks, they're like on the top left side of your keyboard. These little things where the tilde is, you'll see. But you can leave those back ticks in there unless you have any problem with them, but it should work okay because that's how our table was created. So you could leave them in there. Now, all we're going to change here, these are the columns for the presidents in the president's table, so that's fine. And I'll put values here on a different line because this is getting really wide. And it's going to be 45, and it's going to be Trump, and it's going to be Donald, and he's been in for like 3.0 years, and he was inaugurated in 2017, elected in 2016, but he was inaugurated in 2017, and I believe he was 70 when he took office, would actually make him the oldest. And he was from New York, and none here is party, and he's Republican, and he's not a planter, he was a businessman, right? Looks odd. 2 S's in business? Yeah, I think there is. It just looks funny. And then also this last thing here is college. And he went to Penn. He went to the Wharton School, which is part of University of Penn. I'm just going to put Penn for now because they have kind of short versions, I think, in our database that we have here. So I'll just put Penn. So that should be what we need here to throw Trump in there. And then after we put Trump in there, we should be able to put Pence in the other table. So we're going to put Trump in the president's table. So that's using insert into again. We're inserting a new record. And I'm going to put a semicolon. Now, we don't have anything to auto-increment. That's why we put 45 in here. We're not going to have to do that for Pence. So I'm going to copy this and see, make sure we got everything right. Trump, Donald. One thing you got to change here. I almost forgot. We have to change this to be last name because remember, we changed that. We would have got an error if we did that, but it's no longer president for that column. We changed that column name. So that has to change to last name, and I think that's okay. I think everything else is okay. So let me try. I'm glad I caught that. Although if we got an error, we would have just tried it again. So I'm going to copy that. And I'll paste it down here. And I'll hit enter. And it says, okay, 1 row affected, which makes sense. And if we want to do a select all, I'll do it right down here. And again, this is presidents that we're looking at right now, not vice presidents. And there's Trump, and everything looks okay down there. Businessman, yeah, I have it spelled right. So everything's okay. So now we have all the presidents in here. And we're going to throw another vice president in. So I'm going to go back to my working code, and I already have this set up to do this. So I could just copy this and run this again. And remember, we're putting Mike Pence into the vice presidents table. And also notice when we do this one, we put first name, last name. Whereas with the presidents, we put last name, first name. So we're doing it in this order so it reads nicer. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to go back and hit enter. It says one row affected. And I'll use my code to show this. Copy that, the select all from vice presidents. I'll do this again, Control L, paste in my select all, and there it is. And now we have Mike Pence at the bottom. And somehow it skipped over one here, and I'm not sure why. I don't know if that's from what we did previously, but we can fix that later. One of those things we'll deal with as we go. So as far as our presidents here, we're okay. And eventually what we're going to do is we're going to do something called a join, so we can join two tables together, because remember, they're related tables. So you might want to see the president name here. You don't know who President 10 is. It's the accurate data, but we don't know who it is. So if you need to display data that actually shows the president's name, we can do that. And we could do that with something called a join, and that's what we can do with related tables video. So I'm going to stop here. And again, just to review what we did in our working code, which I should save, is that we added a whole bunch of vice presidents, and here they all are. There were like 53 of them, and then another one, a 54th, became number 55. And then we also added Trump to our president's table. Then we went back and added Mike Pence to our vice president's table. I even dropped a table along the way because I had a column name that I didn't like at the beginning, so I just did it over. And you could always do it over. Now that we have all the code here, we can always fix things, I guess, even if I had to fix that auto increment. So I have all my code here. If I ever need to go back and do anything, I have it right here. And we're going to work on completing a join in our next video, which will be part 3.